Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So upcoming July the 16th, we'll have Module 29. We'll gain access to the returning Mount Hope now and its new campaign. It will also bring with it the returning dungeon Lair of the Mad Dragon with a whole load of new items, including this Enchanted Depthforged armor. You're going to have a set for tanks, a set for healers, and a set for damage dealers. You're going to have the enchanted version, but also just the standard version on legendary. There's not much difference between them other than the bonuses are slightly weaker and the item level is slightly less. However, there's one exception on damage dealers which we will cover. So let's go over all of this gear. I've gone and tested, does it work properly? Does it do what it says it does? And ultimately what I think with regards to should they improve it? They're still over a week away. Maybe they can make some adjustments. And ultimately, yeah, should you be going for any of it when this new update comes around? We first start with the gear for the damage dealers. We have the mythic armor here from the master dungeon, and then we have the legendary gear from the advanced dungeon. Very similar except the armor piece. The legendary will give crit strike and crit severity, and the mythic piece will give accuracy and combat advantage. This document I created and displayed in this video here 6 days ago, but let's first have a look at these bonuses and my test results on them. So first of all, we have this headpiece. This will give you combat advantage for the duration you're in combat. So it's going to stack up 10 times, giving you a total of 10% after 50 seconds. It works, but my suggestion would be to reduce the time per stack to just 2 seconds, so you would get 10% combat advantage after 20 seconds. Otherwise, it's fine in your longer boss fights, but if your boss fight's only going to last like 2-3 minutes, then to be honest, this ends up not really worth it. Then there is the armor piece, and as we showed you, it has accuracy and combat advantage, and it can give you a maximum of 7.5% accuracy and 7.5% combat advantage. Super good, and just a direct upgrade from what many of you would be using as the mighty Chorus of the Dragon Hunter. But my suggestion would be potentially to change it so that the stacks will refresh the duration of all your existing stacks. That way they don't fall off separately and it allows you to easier to maintain it. And I would also go ahead and make sure that you can actually get 5 stacks in like one ability. If you're using a multi-target ability and it can do over 10% of your max HP, you should be able to get all the 5 stacks instantly on that ability if you were to hit 5 targets. Currently, it's capped at only 2 stacks per ability. So if you were to hit 10 guys with a power that does over 10% of your max HP, you'll only gain 2 stacks. So it's not great for multi-target content because it takes too long to get the stacks unless the enemies are there for quite a while. Then we go to the arms, and these can be pretty good. You can gain up to 7.5% crit strike. You need to have 3+ enemies though, and you'll only gain the maximum after 10 seconds. I personally would remove the timer on gaining the stacks, so you would just gain all 5 as soon as you enter combat, and then they would decrease as soon as you're only with one target, and it would decrease like slower. So that way if you're in content where you have like waves of enemies spawning, you won't have like so much up and down of this bonus. Then we go to the feet. These are just a 4% damage boost, which is great, but this is for only fire themed maps. It is 1% for every other map. Now this does work. It does have a tooltip error though. It says wild space instead of fire themed. Hopefully they can get that fixed before they end up confusing people. But you may ask, what is considered fire themed, at least in terms of queued content? Well, for the ones I have tested, it's these. Not much. And hopefully the Lair of the Mad Dragon is actually fire themed. I cannot confirm because I cannot test just yet. In all likelihood it is, as we will have like demons and things like that. Now also you need to be aware that it's not the only item that has this fiery predator, this bonus damage in fire themed maps. You're going to have a ring which can give 2%, also with the bonus titled Fiery Predator. And on top of that, you're going to have a shirt which also has Fiery Predator at 2%. Ultimately, the way it is, you can use the boots with the ring or the shirt, but you can't use all three. Like the shirt and the ring will not stack with each other, so you have to choose. And ultimately I would go with just the boots and the shirt. And that way you gain your 6% damage in fire themed maps, but also the new shirt gets a bonus, which is 2% accuracy when you have the pants, which can give like 5% crit strike. This is a very good combo right here. But that's it pretty much for all of the new Depthforged mythic armor for damage dealers. Again, the legendary versions just have a little bit less amount of stats, like the headpiece only giving 8%, the boots only giving 3.5%, the arms only giving 6.5%, and the armor is the same amount of stats, 15% total, but crit strike and crit severity, which is super good because then you can use this as an alternative if you say didn't need the combat advantage and accuracy. That is the case for some classes. Be aware again, it doesn't matter what damage dealer class you are, this is all of the gear you're getting. You can be a rogue, you can be a barbarian, you can be a warlock, all this gear is what you're getting. Now we jump to the healer set. And again, it's exactly the same for all healers. Regardless if you're a paladin, a bard, a warlock, a cleric, they all share the exact same gear. Again, they're in my document here, and there are some very good gear pieces with some great bonuses. The legendary gear is again very similar, just slight item level reduction and slight percentage reduction. Now we start with a headpiece, which can give you a bunch of outgoing healing and power, 5% of each after 50 seconds in combat. So again, only good in those longer fights. My suggestion would be to reduce the time to 5 seconds per stack. Then you have the armor, which can give you 7.5% crit strike and 7.5% crit severity. This is pretty good, and again, you will be able to use this on some damage dealer classes like the bard, the cleric, and the warlock. They can share the same gear that the healers can use. But again, it works. Just be aware though, it's not going to be great for a paladin because each ability can only give 2 stacks. And so maintaining those is very tricky on paladin because you're always using like your abilities to actually heal. You have no heal over time. A heal over time will allow you to sustain all of this 5 stacks, but not with like Divine Shelter unless you're casting like 1 every 5 seconds, which is not generally feasible. And so again, I would suggest to make it so that one ability, if I can heal 5 targets and heal them all above 10% of my hit points, I should be able to get all 5 stacks instantly. And all of those stacks should refresh as well. But moving on, we have the arms. This one can give you maximum divinity or maximum performance in Soul Weave. And this is just 20% with a bonus of 3.5% forte. This is good, but my problem here is it has to compete against the ultraviolet arms, which are 25%. So what is the real point here? One thing though is that Mystic Inspiration at 20% from this bonus actually stacks with the 25% bonus from the Enchanted Bregenhelm. So on your Warlock and your Bard, you can get 1450 heal resource. I don't think that's intended and they're very likely to fix it. If they do go and fix it, again, I still highly recommend they increase this maximum divinity, maximum performance soul weave to 25%. To match that what the ultraviolet arms have, or they could increase the forte to probably like 5%. Moving on to the feet, these can have regeneration, but they only have 15%. And again, it's divinity, performance, or soul weave, but you only gain half that, 7.5%, when you're outside of fire themed maps. But you do gain a 3.5% outgoing healing boost. But still, this has to compete with the Starforged feat, which are at just 20%, regardless of what content you're in. Versus these are only going to be 7.5% if we're outside of fire themed maps. What I would suggest is they just increase this to 20%, and when outside of fire themed maps it's whatever, you just use this Starforged. But it would mean at least when you are in fire themed maps, you aren't like choosing an inferior bonus if you can already max out your outgoing healing. Ultimately, again, what is considered fire themed maps in terms of queued content are these right here. Zarya's Challenge? Nope. Red Dragon's Lair? Nope. Lair the Mad Dragon? Don't know yet. From here, we're going to the tank gear. Again, all tanks share this stuff, and we'll jump straight to the headpiece where we have Warden's Stamina. So this will just give us the ability to get 4% stamina and 8% awareness. Pretty good, but it's after 50 seconds in combat. So I sure damn hope the boss fights are pretty long in the new dungeon. My suggestion again is to just reduce the time per stack to 2 seconds so you can get all of them after 20 seconds in combat. Otherwise it's fine. The tank armor then, it works. Some people come to me and say it doesn't work. It does work, guys. Just be aware that blocking does not count as getting damaged. You cannot just go block the hit and think you're getting damaged to trigger this buff. It won't work like that. You will gain the stamina, you will gain the awareness. The Dragon Hunt one works exactly the same, and it always has done. Some people still insist it doesn't work. It does. However, I would really appreciate if the devs remove the 15-second cooldown and allow it to refresh. So if I'm always getting hit for like 15% of my damage, I can always have this bonus. That would be super good. Then we go to the arms. These ones, again, they have a massive cooldown, and on top of that, a chance to trigger. Combining both of those is a disaster for a terrible bonus. Again, you can leave the chance to trigger, it's okay. You can use it when you're fighting lots of enemies and getting attacked a lot, but remove the damn cooldown and allow it to refresh. Otherwise it works. Then the feet. These are at least reliable. You know for sure you're always going to have this bonus, but as soon as your hit points go down, you're going to lose a bit of it, which is okay, because at least you're going to have all the stats for when you have to prepare for a big hit. That's usually the most challenge for a tank, preparing yourself for a tank buster, not getting one shot. That's at least endgame tanks. So it works as described. It's just I would suggest to at least increase these values to 5% each, if not 10%. They would need to be at least 10% to compete with Ghosted. Even then, probably not, because deflect's not great, and just having whopping 20% extra hit points is like hard to beat, especially when it has such a high uptime. This bonus is just crazy good when we're up here at like nearly getting 2 million hit points because of it. We're at like 1.6 million at over 100,000 item level. And then this giving us 20% more is like 400,000 hit points. You can't really compete with that. Maybe they just need to get this nerfed so they can actually make some useful feat pieces. Ultimately, that's all of the new mythic Enchanted Depthforged gear upcoming. There are some definite useful options there. Again, in my video here, I covered the document, explained everything. I went and ranked some of this gear, so I had my key here, white border's terrible, green is like try and get something better, gold is okay, magenta is very good. And if we look at like the tank gear, you have like one piece is good and the rest is like, ugh. There are just much better options out there. In terms of the healer gear, yeah, there's some great pieces here. And the boots, I would recommend just, again, increase the regen a bit. The gloves, I would increase the maximum a bit. And then for damage dealers, yeah, there are some actual very good options here for them. They just need to make sure they use this helmet in long fights. They use these gloves in multi-target fights, and the boots in the fire-themed maps, and it's not bad at all what we're getting. Just again, very underwhelming with the tank gear. I hope at least some of my suggestions can get listened to. If not for this gear, then for some future gear. So thanks for watching. A massive thank you to all these channel members, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.